Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. I'm here to help you break down tonight's 7-game NBA DFS slates for both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also, click subscribe to the channel. That helps us climb up these YouTube algorithms and get more free content like this out to you. Additionally, if you're not already a member at Occupy Fantasy, I highly recommend you join today. There's links provided below in the description. If you sign up, you get access to the model you see here, where you can sort by value, ownership, etc. for each site. Also, our single and multi-lineup builders, as well as a Discord server full of DFS experts, providing you information and help in building your lineups and winning money. We also have a 30-minute window in that Discord server leading up to lock, where there is a voice channel where you could ask questions specific to your own builds. So yeah, we have a solid 7-game slate tonight. A lot of teams on back-to-backs. I was kind of holding out, hoping we'd get the injury report for some of these teams. It's 10:30 a.m. Eastern, just after 10:30 now, and that report still doesn't have most of this news. So definitely keep an eye on the news. And if you aren't a member, get in that Discord server and check out the model, because throughout the day, as this stuff drops, that will be updating in real time. So it's very important in NBA DFS to process news. It's really half the game, honestly. If you're not finding those value plays as guys are ruled out, it's very difficult to win. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the slate. Again, 7 games, really a good slate size in my opinion. First game, we have the Nets at the Pacers. Um, Nets are plus 1 point underdogs on the road in Indiana, 229-point total. The first big question for me here is, will Kevin Durant be playing tonight? We're not seeing any sort of questionable tag or anything on him on DK as things stand. But I know Nets coach Jacques Vaughn really wants to rest him here. Reporters asked KD if he thought he'd be going. He said, "That's up to Coach Vaughn. You go ask him." So no injury report out for the Nets yet, so that's kind of tough to say. But if he's out, obviously that's going to create a lot of usage for everyone else in that starting lineup, namely mainly Kyrie Irving. If KD's out, Kyrie's going to look excellent here. It looks like Ben Simmons already going to be ruled out on the back end of a back-to-back. He did look fine last night, but I don't think they're going to push him coming back from injury. Nick Claxton missed yesterday's game. If he's back tonight and Simmons is out, I do like him a lot as a center play on both sites. If KD's out, he'd see even higher usage here. So regardless of who's in the lineup for the Nets, this is going to be a really favorable game environment. So this is certainly something to keep an eye on. If some of these guys are ruled out, I think secondary plays like Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal could look good. We did see Edmund Sumner go down with an injury last night. So I'm trying to think. I think maybe we see Patty Mills or Cam Thomas slide into the rotation, and that's with or without KD in the lineup. So certainly something to keep an eye on there. But for me, it's really going to be Kyrie as a priority with KD out of the lineup. If KD's in, I think he's fine as a pay-up option. He's shown he can play on back-to-backs and be effective. It's just a little bit, I don't know, sketchy that the coach is already talking about resting him. I wish we had that injury report. We simply don't yet. Joe Harris has been shooting a lot better lately. I don't mind him as a value play for the Nets. But really, just to reemphasize, I think Kyrie's going to be the priority here. He could even see extra minutes with Summer out. Not that he doesn't already play a ton of minutes anyway, but he'll be really solid here. And I do like Claxton if he's back with Ben Simmons out of the lineup. And just to say it one more time, KD is the piece of news we're waiting on here. I know there's no injury designation on him now, but there's just been a lot of talk about him potentially resting in this spot. If he's in, I do think he's a good play. If he's out, obviously, go to Kyrie and the others. So over on the Indiana side, and they did not release their injury report either. Going into yesterday's game, we saw Miles Turner listed as questionable. Whenever he's out, Jalen Smith becomes one of the best value plays on the slate, so certainly keep an eye on that. Isaiah Jackson sat yesterday, which should create more minutes for a player like Smith, regardless of if Turner's in the lineup or not. But we only saw him play 11 yesterday. Maybe it's because they were on a back-to-back and they want to give him more run here, but that's another thing we are going to have to keep an eye on heading into this slate. It looks like Halliburton's 100% healthy. I mean, they've been really cautious with him. It wouldn't shock me to see him benched on the second half of a back-to-back. I think it's more likely than not that he plays. If he's in, he's a good play everywhere. I like him a lot. If he's out, we'd probably run to TJ McConnell as a value option, who does seem to finally be healthy. I don't mind Andrew Nemhard or Benedict Mathurin. I think Nemhard's been the more consistent producer lately. Mathurin obviously has a very high ceiling, really impressive rookie player. It's tough to trust either of these guys, but in such a good game environment where the total's pushing 230, I think you can consider either or. Buddy Hield, he's had some good games lately. Don't mind him as an option at all. If one of those other starters are ruled out, his usage would be even more secure. He's coming off his kind of best stretch of the season. The last 4 games, he's looked really good. His shot is falling. Hield known as a streaky player. So when you can get him while he's hot, I think he's a good option. We're looking at 6,100 on FanDuel. I actually do like that price a lot. And then over on DK, where is he? Is he cheaper than? No way. I'm just missing him here. 6K. Yeah, so that's a good price. So yeah, I do like Buddy Hield everywhere, but again, I mean, if this whole team is healthy, it's Miles Turner, Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and probably Nemhard in that order. If one of those guys is ruled out, though, that would create sort of a trickle-down effect where we're getting more value from this team. Obviously, again, if Halliburton's out, we're going to be looking at TJ McConnell. If Turner's out, we're going to be looking to Jalen Smith. But as things stand, I'm probably prioritizing Halliburton, and I do like Turner a lot, actually. The Nets' front court defense has been terrible for the past few seasons. One of the worst rebounding teams in the league, even with Claxton in the lineup. He only played 30 minutes last night. I think we could see full rotation from Turner here again. So whoever does end up starting at center for the Pacers, I think is going to be a really good play. So whole lot of question marks on this first game. Luckily, it is the first game on the slate, so we should have that news prior to lock. So keep an eye on that. Next, we have the Los Angeles Clippers at the Washington Wizards. Clippers 5.5-point favorites on the road in Washington, D.C. Pulling up the injury report now. Yeah, Reggie Jackson's out. That's pretty big. Terrence Mann's questionable. Norman Powell's out. It looks like both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard should be good to go here. I do like Kawhi a lot on FanDuel, where he's only 5,800. We've seen the minutes slowly tick up. He actually got to 30 last time out against Orlando. Just clicking over to DK to kind of compare prices here. Yeah, 7,100, a little bit tougher to stomach. Not sure I get there as frequently. He's still an okay tournament option. Whenever you're getting 30 minutes from Kawhi, he's going to be viable. But yeah, 5,800 on FanDuel, that's kind of a no-brainer. And then on DK, certainly a little trickier at 7-1. Paul George, still sub 9K. I think he's a good option here. Again, both these guys were kind of injured at the same time. I mean, Kawhi has been all season, but Paul's injury kind of overlapped, so they're both kind of working their way back. But we did see them both go over 30 minutes last time out. So these are your two priorities here. I will say Paul George is tougher to get to on DK, but I still think you can get there. But yeah, they're both cheaper on FanDuel tonight. The other guy I like a lot here is going to be John Wall. I'm not sure he starts, and I'm not sure that's a bad thing because he's going to get more usage coming off the bench. Less minutes on the floor with Kawhi and George is actually a good thing for him. But with Reggie Jackson out of the lineup, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him slide into that starting lineup. We could also see someone like Luke Kennard, who has been known to do some ball handling, potentially slide into the starting lineup. So I'm keeping an eye on him. Where is he? Did FanDuel take away his shooting guard eligibility? That's kind of strange. Oh no, he was just way at the bottom. Yeah, so we're getting a minimum price Luke Kennard. Really tough to trust this guy. Obviously scoring dependent. If he's not taking shots and they're not falling, he's very rarely going to hit value for you. But where you're getting him at minimum price, if we get Terrence Mann ruled out again and we have Reggie Jackson ruled out, I do think Luke Kennard becomes an appealing value option. Other Clippers I'm considering, I guess Marcus Morris is fine. Really not someone I'm ever rushing to get to. Whoever starts on the wing, whether it's Batum or Covington, I think you could go to either or. We saw a good game out of Batum last time out. He's been consistently hitting over 25 fantasy points. I think he's a solid value option. Just want to check his price over on DK. Yeah, 4,200. That's certainly viable. Then Ivica Zubac. I mean, it's always the same story with this guy. He has a very high ceiling, very low floor, good tournament play, never a priority for me, but I do think he's fine if you're playing multiple lineups in tournaments. So yeah, nothing really surprising from the Clippers side. Let's go over to Washington. Washington, another team who has not released their injury report. It does look like Bradley Beal will be out again, though. Certainly keep an eye on that. With him out, most of that usage goes to Kyle Kuzma and Kristaps Porzingis, both excellent plays. Kristaps was actually questionable all day yesterday, and then they ruled him in. I think he He got hurt briefly. He was out of the game, and then he came back. So there's a chance he ends up out on this back-to-back. If he does, that's going to make Kyle Kuzma look excellent here. Denny Avila actually has been really, really good with Beal out of the lineup. It's tough to stomach this 5,500 price tag on FanDuel. I think he's similarly priced. He should be a little cheaper on DK. Yeah, 4,700. I mean, it doesn't feel great to click on a ton of Avida here, but as long as Beal's out, I do like him. Small forward is a notoriously thin position on a 7-game slate. That's no exception. Consistently hitting over 25 fantasy points. That's just a good value option in the mid-range. So I do like Denny. But as things stand, I mean, obviously we're prioritizing Kristaps and Kuzma. They're both solid plays. Not sure I'd want both in the same lineup. I don't know. I tend to favor Kristaps in most instances, but Kuzma's been really good. It's just his prices come up on FanDuel, and yeah, they're priced pretty similarly on DK as well. So I do prefer Kristaps of the two if you can get to him, but if you can't, Kuzma's certainly a pretty solid consolation there. And then, yeah, in the front court, I'm not really crazy about anyone. We've seen Daniel Gafford start at times. Just really tough to trust this guy, but if you do want to kind of pay it down in that mid-range for center, there are crazier plays. Really not prioritizing him at all. But yeah, Wizards, another team who have not released their injury report yet. I mean, as things stand, as long as Beal's out, I do think Denny Avila is kind of a borderline core option. Then you can kind of pick one of Kuzma or Porzingis. But yeah, solid game environment. Looking, 220 point total, not bad at all. So we move into the one game in the 7:30 window, and we have the Oklahoma City Thunder at the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think, yeah, the Cavs have not released their injury report yet, so that's the key. Yesterday, Donovan Mitchell was out. We saw Darius Garland kind of dud in that spot, which was super unfortunate. Just didn't really get any shots up in the first half. It took him a while to get going. Once he did look good here. But obviously, if Mitchell is out again, I do think we can prioritize Garland. He's just kind of tough to trust coming off that game he had last night, but at the same time, I think the field's going to feel that way as well. So if Mitchell's out and Garland's in, I do like Garland a lot. Jared Allen, another player who was super disappointing last night, but I think he's still too cheap for his upside. I like him a lot on both sides. Sub 7K, both sides. I mean, you kind of need a couple blocks and steals out of him to hit value, but he usually gets them. It's just last night he just really didn't get there. None of the Cavs seem to get there. But he's a fine play. Keep an eye on Kevin Love. If he's out, obviously that creates opportunity for some of the secondary players. Evan Mobley's been really solid. I tend to not want to go to him when Jared Allen's in the lineup, but he does have a high ceiling in him. If you want to mix him into your tournament builds, he's certainly someone you can consider. But yeah, and if Mitchell's in, I will say he is a solid option, but definitely keep an eye on that. The guy who actually was good for the Cavs last night was Karis LeVert. Took him a while to get going, but he finished with over 35 fantasy points. And if Mitchell's out and he's in the starting lineup again, I think we could go right back to the well with him. We saw guys like Chetty Osman, Lamar Stevens getting extended minutes. They're fine as value. Neither are really priorities for me, though. But again, keep an eye on that Mitchell news. That's certainly going to be a key here. Still no injury report out of Cleveland. So something to keep an eye on. OKC has released their injury report, and there's really nothing of significance. No Kenrich Williams. Everything else is kind of G League, so there's nothing we really have to dig too deep in there in terms of injury news. I do like SGA. I think he's a really strong option if you can afford him. Probably one of my favorite guard plays on the slate. I think Josh Giddey's a good tournament play. There's really not much else I'm getting to for OKC right now. They just have a lot of bodies. They kind of limit guys' minutes because they have a very deep rotation. They're tanking in a lot of ways. So, yeah, it's just tough for me to get to anyone other than SGA or Giddey from OKC. But we'll move right along into the next game. And yeah, that game, if I didn't mention, has a 222 point total. So solid game environment there as well. 8 o'clock window, we're looking at the Mavericks at the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are 2-point favorites at home. Yeah, Dallas coming off a back-to-back where they played in Milwaukee, so yeah, it wouldn't shock me if maybe we see someone rested here. Probably not. I don't think Luka gets rested in this spot, which would obviously create a huge trickle down. Guys like Spence Dinwiddie and THJ would become top priorities. As things stand, THJ and Dinwiddie are both solid options for me. I'll click back over to DK. I know I've been spending a lot of time on the FanDuel screen. It's just a little easier to see for the visual. But yeah, Luka, if you can afford him, excellent play. That's how I always feel about him. He's been one of the best fantasy producers in the league all season. not a surprise at all there. Christian Wood's more of a tournament option, really not rushing to get to him, but he's solid in that mid-range if you're playing a bunch of tournament lineups. I don't mind him. But yeah, THJ, Spence Dinwiddie, both good options. And really the value for Dallas is always kind of hit or miss. Guys like DFS, Maxi Kleber, really not loving any of them. So I'm trying to avoid that value if I can help it. But if someone gets ruled out of the starting lineup, that would certainly open things up. But yeah, really as things stand, it's Luka for me, and then I don't mind THJ or Dinwiddie in lineups where you can't afford him. It's kind of a good pivot. If one of those guys go off, it probably cuts into Luka's production. You're getting double leverage in a spot like that. That's something we talk about in DFS. It could certainly help you climb a leaderboard. But yeah, we need that injury report from them. Over on the Chicago side, still no Lonzo Ball, no surprise there. That's really it. I mean, Javonte Green looks to be out as well. Yeah, so the Bulls are one of these teams where they have a lot of good players, but it's tough to know who's going to go off on a given night. I like DeRozan, I like Levine, I like Vooch, but I don't know. Like, whose night is it tonight against Dallas? I mean, Levine's been really solid lately. He's probably my favorite of the group just where he's priced. DeRozan obviously producing a little bit higher of a level, but he's also more expensive. So I like Levine a lot there. And Vooch is fine at center. You're looking around 7,200. Yeah, coming off a really good game. Dallas's front court defense really not strong at all. So I do like Vooch probably more than I initially thought I would going into the slate. He's better on DK, but 7,700 on FanDuel certainly a price I can tolerate as well. If we don't get any value on the slate, you could look to someone like Andre Drummond. Obviously, he's the backup center. It would take a little foul trouble for Vooch for Drummond to really hit his ceiling, but his fantasy point per minute rate's so high. We see these games occasionally where he only plays like 50 minutes and finishes with close to 30 fantasy points. Something like that on a mid-side slate can be very valuable. But again, that's kind of a large tournament play only. I wouldn't be rushing to get to Andre Drummond. But yeah, I mean, it's tough with Chicago. They got a lot of decent plays, but no one I'm really rushing to get to. All right. A couple more games, plugging right along. We have the Boston Celtics at the Golden State Warriors. Celtics 3-point favorites on the road. 237 game total here. That's probably the highest on the slate, I'd imagine. So really, really good game environment. No surprise, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown look good on both sides. They've been excellent all season. I think they're fine. If you can get to either, I mean, I definitely prefer Tatum of the two. He's just been the better player. But Brown, I mean, you're getting him 3K cheaper. Yeah, almost 12K for Tatum on DK tonight. That's really tough for me to want to get to, but in this game environment, he certainly is appealing. But yeah, Jaylen Brown, I mean, he's the better price of the two. I mean, obviously, he's not producing quite at Tatum's level, but when you're getting such a big discount, I think it's easier for him to hit value than it is for Tatum. So if you want a piece of this game, I can see prioritizing Jaylen Brown. And then, yeah, I mean, all the secondary plays for the Celtics are fine. Did I check that injury report? We should have one out. No Al Horford, still no Robert Williams. Yeah, so there is going to be some minutes to go around in this front court. We can see a guy like Grant Williams potentially become a solid value play. Pretty inconsistent. Don't mind the price at 5K on FanDuel. What are we looking at? Sub 5K on DK. He's definitely better on DK. But we're probably going to get Blake Griffin starting at center. This is not a guy I'm trying to play. He is coming off a couple of good games here. I mean, he's going to be tough to ignore, honestly. Like, I never feel good about playing Blake, but if he's going to be hitting those 20-point ceilings with both the other centers out, I think we have to at least consider him. So, yeah, if we don't get better value, I reluctantly do think Blake's a decent play. Grant Williams, solid as well. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to trust anyone else in that front court. And then all the guards, they got White, Brogdon, Smart. They're all okay plays, but it's tough to prioritize one over the other. All right. Then over on the Warriors side, it's kind of always the same story for them. It looks like Andrew Wiggins is out. Yeah, no, Andrew Wiggins. That should create a bit of an opportunity for guys like Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole. If we see Poole slide into the starting lineup, that has been a nice boost for him, even alongside Steph Curry. Curry's price has come down. He's down sub 10K on FanDuel. He's been pretty inconsistent, but I do like that price. Again, 237 point game total. Curry's a good option here. Klay, very scoring dependent, obviously. I like Draymond in that front court where Boston's very thin tonight. It's a good matchup for him. Kevon Looney, always an appealing tournament play. He's just always cheap, and if you need value, he kind of gets around you 20, 25 fantasy points, so I don't mind him here at all. But yeah, I mean, keep an eye on the starting lineup when Wiggins is out. We've seen guys like Kuminga, DiVincenzo have some pretty good games. Um, excuse me. It seems like Lamb could potentially be suspended. Oh, sorry, been holding in that sneeze for 10 minutes. I feel much better now. But yeah, I do like Curry. He's much, much better on FanDuel, though. You're getting him almost 2K cheaper, so it's just tough for me to want to get to him over here. That being said, he is going to be lower owned on DraftKings, so I guess that's a plus. But I do like Mooney, and if Poole slides into the starting lineup, he's going to look good. It's like all these Warriors are cheaper on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings so today, so keep that in mind, I guess. But I do think you're going to want parts of this game. Just such a high total. A lot of the better defenders are out for Boston. So yeah, there's just a lot of upside in all these guys. It's just they're all kind of priced where they should be, so you got to kind of pick and choose your spots. When that's the case, I kind of fill my lineup with the value from the other games first, and I'll use Celtics and Warriors as kind of last man in type plays. They'll all be appealing here with this very high total. Two teams that play at a fast pace, and I don't know. I just think this game could be must-see TV tonight. We'll see, though. The Celtics have been really good. They've been blowing out a lot of teams. But, don't worry about the blowout. I just really like this game environment. But moving into the next game, it's just tough to talk Celtics Warriors when they're healthy. I think they're both really strong, though. So I know I kind of went quickly through them, but definitely take a long, hard look at those plays there. We get the Utah Jazz at the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are 8-point favorites at home. Checking the injury report. Nuggets, Jamal Murray's probable. Still no Michael Porter Jr. So it's really Jokic for me here. Obviously, he's going to be a good play on any slate. His rates have come down a bit with Murray in the lineup, but I still think he's one of the better payups. We kind of see all the other payup options. Their prices are jacked up tonight. Jokic's is as well, but his is always this high, so I do feel better about him than some of the other payups we've discussed so far. Aaron Gordon's been good, a little bit hit or miss. Prefer him in tournaments. Same with Bruce Brown. Good play if he starts. But yeah, just tough to rely on any of these guys consistently. It's really Nikola Jokic here for me as a priority, and then nothing else from Denver. Over on the Utah side, no injury report from them yet. This is certainly something we have to keep an eye on. Lauri Markkanen's been out. Colin Sexton's out. And Mike Conley played last night, and it is a back-to-back, so there's a chance we see Mike Conley end up rested. If Conley and Sexton are both out, Jordan Clarkson's going to become a priority for me on both sides. If Markkanen's out, we're going to see a nice boost for Olynyk. And if Walker Kessler starts again, I think we could go back there. He had a terrible first half last night. Still almost got the value. Not quite, but he's a good value center if you need him. But yeah, it's really just tough to know what we're going to get out of this Utah team so early in the day. Again, Conley doesn't play back-to-backs most of the time, especially coming off an injury. I imagine he's going to be rested, which is going to create a lot of opportunity for Jordan Clarkson. Another guy we've seen really good lately is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. If he slides into the starting lineup, which I imagine he will, he's going to be one of the best value plays on the slate, so I like him a lot. I'll just even click him right now on FanDuel. Man, yeah, they just don't raise his price. 3,100 on DK, that's criminal. I mean, if Conley's out and or Markkanen's out, or if Alexander Walker's starting, so like in any of those situations, I do like Alexander Walker as one of the better value plays on the slate. So certainly keep an eye on that. But yeah, as things stand, it's just really tough to know what's going to happen in Utah. Definitely keep an eye on the news throughout the day. Keep an eye on the model. Get in the Discord if you can. This will help you kind of process all that. Last game on the slate. We have the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Portland Trailblazers. No injury report out for the Timberwolves yet. They are on a back-to-back. Obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns is still going to be out. Looks like Taurean Prince is likely to be out as well. Kyle Anderson went off last night. I think he's fine in the mid-range. Really not something I'm forcing in, but he does look good here. Anthony Edwards, one of my favorite plays on the slate. I mean, his prices come up, so people have been hesitant to go there. But he's just producing at such a high level with Cat out of the lineup with that extra usage. Really, really like his price at 8,800 on FanDuel. Strong play there. D'Angelo Russell, kind of the secondary option. Very scoring dependent, not quite as consistent as Edwards, but a good play. And seeing a boost with Cat out of the lineup. Rudy Gobert, it took him a couple games, but it seems he's adjusting to having no cat next to him. He's had a couple good games back to back. Still priced reasonably on both sides, so I do think Gobert is a solid option here as well. Over on the Portland side, we have Nasir Little and Gary Payton out. Justin Woods low is probable. So nothing crazy here. I do think Dame's a fine pay up. I do like Jeremy Grant a lot in that mid range. Yusuf Nurkic, one of my favorite center plays on the slate. Just a very high ceiling, and he never really draws the ownership he should. So another good game here. I do like Gobert. I would prioritize Anthony Edwards as things stand, and I think Kyle Anderson in that mid range is a good play. I'd rather get to someone like Denny Abida, who's priced similarly on both sides, but I do think Anderson's a good pivot, and if you need the value from both of them, that's certainly an option for you as well. So the last thing I'm going to do here, we did quickly go game by game, still waiting on a lot of injury news, so be sure to keep your eye on the model throughout the day. Again, to win at NBA DFS, you kind of have to process that news and see how things kind of work out. But quickly kind of sorting by OF index here, which weighs upside along with price, definitely more of an emphasis on upside. We're seeing Jokic, Doncic, Tatum, Durant towards the top. Again, if Durant is ruled out for rest, as Jock Vaughn wants him to, we could see Kyrie shoot to the top of this. Definitely something to keep an eye on. I think Porzingis plays with Beal out. He's going to be appealing, but if he's out, then Kyle Kuzma would become a priority. Donovan Mitchell should be back tonight. If he's not, I do think we go back to Darius Garland, even though he kind of put up a dud yesterday. SGA, I like a lot here as well. Cleveland's been very tough defensively, but with them on a back-to-back, I do think they can keep this game close. So SGA is a play I'm going to be considering. Quickly sorting by ownership, I forgot to mention Monty Morris for the Wizards. He's a good option here. He's finally seeing over 30 minutes a game. Talented guard last year in Denver. They got him over in the KCP trade, I believe, and yeah, he's producing at a high level, seeing extra usage with Beal out. Good value guard option on both sides. Denny Avila, who I've talked about a bunch already. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, who I've talked about a bunch already. So nothing too surprising here. Again, 7-game slate. I like it a lot. You're definitely going to want to keep an eye on this news throughout the day. As is always the case with NBA DFS, news is kind of first. Again, my name is Nick Marro. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Please like the video, click subscribe. Let's have fun tonight and make some money. Good luck, everyone.